So now I'm on A1.
Number 1, yes.
A number 1, discussion with the airport committee on their thoughts relating to a proposed parallel taxiway at the airport.
Okay. Hello, I'm William Ryan of Belfast, Maine, Chairman of the Airport Committee, but I will defer to, for the most part, to some other people on our committee who are more experienced than I, and Sandy Reynolds, who has for many years been the fixed-base operator here, who has pertinent things to say. But in our last meeting, we decided to make a motion that it was financially adventurous to spend so much money on a taxiway, which we didn't think was really that necessary. The cost-benefit analysis done among ourselves said that it, given the amount of traffic we have right now, it would be excessive to do such a large project, given the cost, which had almost doubled from around $3 million to $6.1 million for the runway taxiway, and making the portion of the expense due to the city of Belfast to be about $300,000 to be in excess of what the city would probably feel comfortable with. Dave Aldrich is a professional pilot. Duke Tomlin spends a lot of time at the airport, a lot more than I lately, since he has a plane there still. And Sandy Reynolds, as I mentioned, has been the fixed base operator and knows about all the operations for the past 20 years at the airport. So if, gentlemen, any one of you would like to step up?
My name is Duke Tomlin. I'm also a member of the Airport Advisory Committee. I live in Monroe. And as Bill said, I have an airplane and a hangar out there. Yeah, our feeling is that the parallel taxiway is not a necessity. It's considered a safety item, but there's no safety problems at the airport, and we don't see anything in the near future. It's a very costly endeavor. The money that the city would have to put up, over $300,000, we feel could be spent many other places at the airport with a lot better return that would enhance the airport's ability to be financially self-sufficient. Putting a parallel taxiway at the airport with the volume of traffic we have now, using safety as an analogy, is sort of like saying it would be safer if we put a traffic signal on every intersection in the city of Belfast. Yeah, it would be safer, but does it make sense? Not really. We don't have the traffic volume that comes anywhere close to justifying that. And like I said, we feel that there are other priorities at the airport that could make it more attractive to expand and provide opportunities for business to locate there.
I'm Sandy Reynolds. I was your FBO for 15 years here. And before that, I worked for 16 years at Bar Harbor, and then before that, 4 years at Belfast. I really would like to talk about Bar Harbor, because when I was at Bar Harbor, we had a runway, the main runway, we had intersection runways. We had the main runway, 5,000 feet. You couldn't see one end from the other, okay? And we had 25 times as much traffic, or more traffic, than you have here in Belfast. And in that 16 years I was there, there was never an accident, okay, because of that. It's a safety factor, but the parallel runway is I think, more valuable as a way to make traffic move more efficiently and quicker. But as an absolute safety factor, I don't really quite see it that way. I've had 2 incidences with planes trying to take off from either end of the runway at Bar Harbor, once before the parallel taxiway and once after the parallel taxiway. In both cases, the pilots figured out who was what and stopped. It was a communications issue, but I didn't see the parallel taxiways really being in any great help in enhancing safety that much. Somewhat, yes, that's true, but you can have runway incursions with parallel taxiways. I'd say here in Belfast, by the time you really would have the traffic volume to justify a parallel taxiway, it would be time to repave and redo it again. So I think it's another 15 years or more before Belfast will come anywhere near the volume of traffic that we had at Bar Harbor. Okay. Any questions?
Thank you.
John?
I do have,
Yeah.
I do have a couple of questions. Still, having only been here for less than a couple of years, can one or more of you talk about the history of how the parallel taxiway proposal became part of the long-range plan, and what were the projections that, or concerns that put it on the long-range plan originally that might have changed so that it isn't, that's what you want, that you want to take it off now?
Try to do that.
Okay.
I think we looked at different airport enhancements in the past few years about different items that would help benefit the airport, and parallel taxiway came up. And it's a nice-to-have thing. It wasn't so nice to have at $3 million. It's crazy to have at $6 million. I mean, so the cost got out of hand. I mean, when we first started looking at this many years ago, there was a list of a couple of things. And this was one of them. Lighting was one. We looked at putting in what they call a VASI, V-A-S-I, which stands for Vertical Approach Slope Indicator. That's a light array alongside the runway that enables pilots in visual conditions.
Getting away from my question.
Well, this is germane to that because it's a little historical. We looked at doing that, which is a better safety enhancement, that along with the parallel taxiway. We approached the FAA about that. They weren't too excited about it for whatever reason, and we approached our senators and congressmen to try to move that question, and the FAA came back and said the traffic volume at Belfast doesn't justify that.
Justify the
VASI.
But
Right, and so that was in part of that list. So next up was the parallel taxiway. We looked at other things and said, well, other than fuel, at the time there was fuel at Belfast. That's to our thinking, fuel is the most important thing to put in the airport at Belfast right now. It's not a safety issue, it's an economic issue. But so what happens was there was a list of things that we looked at that are potential enhancements to the airport. The parallel taxiway was on that list, and it eventually worked its way up to the top. And so we figured, okay, it's time to do this. And then the price came in.
So it was more of a wish list than something that was driven by some real numbers.
Right.
How could it have survived without any kind of thoughtful analysis?
Good question.
Thank you. Any answers?
Nope. I don't have an answer to that one.
How about any of the other gentlemen here?
I think the answer is that
Go, please.
I think one of the leaders in that sort of thought is that it's federal money, and I think there's a certain looseness on spending money if you don't think it's local, and it's one of the reasons that we're sort of hesitating at it now, in that not only would it be $300,000 of local money, but it would also be $5.5 million of federal money. And personally, I don't care to waste the federal money any more than the local money.
But okay, so about how many years ago did it come on to the master plan?
I would say 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
much longer than that. Much longer than that.
But the main thing is that since the cost has doubled over the past couple of months, that's what suddenly made us think this is getting out of hand.
Does the airport committee think, hope, or feel that if the council doesn't spend $300,000 on a $7 million runway project, a parallel runway project, or taxiway project, that money will then be converted into putting a fuel system at the airport?
I don't think it can be converted. We're hoping all along, we have been hoping since the loss of the fuel system that we would get a new one. I don't think there's a direct linkage there. I don't
There's
think.
no federal money for that.
Right, correct. There's no federal money on that, and so we have requested that in the past and asked that that would be considered. It hasn't come forth yet. I don't think we can swap the two and ask for $200,000 in change for some other purpose. They're separate issues, and as Duke mentioned, we'd also love to have VASI lights. We've been hoping for them for years, but again, that's a separate thing. The FAA said that they have a list of airports in the country who are in line to get VASI systems at their expense, and we are somewhere at the very end of the list. And again, this is because of safety concerns. They figured the volume of traffic did not warrant that. That's all.
Did the FAA ever feel that it was appropriate for the parallel taxiway to be on our plan?
Yes.
Why?
The mind of the bureaucracy is beyond mine. I've talked to them a number of times and was just completely baffled. I spent half an hour on the phone some years ago talking with one man after another to try to get an answer on the VASI principle. And they said, I couldn't get a clear explanation of why we couldn't. I couldn't get a clear explanation of if we were in line until I pushed and finally said, is there a chance in hell that we will ever get one? And after a lot of hemming and hawing, I found the reason was, the answer pretty much was no.
Yeah, right. That still doesn't answer the parallel taxiway question.
I'm sorry?
That doesn't answer the parallel taxiway. You keep on going back to the VASI system.
Well, the question
was why was the FAA supportive of our putting in a parallel taxiway?
Well, they considered it a safety issue. And to answer your question, when we have Thomas Kittredge here, who is, I think, quite adept at dealing with that bureaucracy, I'm always puzzled, but he works his way through the complexities of requesting money and requesting projects much better than I can. They believe it is a safety issue. We personally do not.
Just out of curiosity, the pilots for Athena Health that come in and day out, they're more commercial pilots than recreational pilots. I know Dave does commercial certainly, but they agree with this idea that we really don't need one?
I don't know. I did hear today a rumor that they had, that Thomas Kittredge said that Athena does wish we had a parallel taxiway. I don't know the source of that. I don't know it was Dave Miramont or someone higher in the organization. I can't
Just
answer
curious.
that. Can't answer that.
Let me just say, I really appreciate your perspectives and I value your knowledge. You have more knowledge in aviation than I have. I don't know much more about the FAA than you do. I know that we've been on a list for a long time trying to get this money. My understanding is that the big reason for the price increase is where it would be located. We now realize something we didn't realize in the past, which is there's ledge removal, and that apparently has escalated the price. I'm just worried as a manager that if the FAA believes, rightfully or wrongfully, this is a safety issue, and we turn around and say, we don't think you know what you're talking about, we don't want your money to help redress the safety issue, I'm worried what that's going to have, because they've always told us safety is top priority and everything else. I don't know what their reaction is going to be, and I'm just worried about that, but I really respect the costs you've laid out, and I respect your knowledge as an airman.
Well, I mean, I can't read the mind of the FAA inspector or the people at the headquarters why they want to allocate the money to this. I respect the opinion of someone like Sandy Reynolds, who has so much experience in places like this. For those who may not be clear in their minds of what the taxiway is or how it works or why it's a safety issue. It's that if a plane now taxis out, wants to take off to the north, we use runway 33, which indicates it is heading in a 330-degree direction. Go out, taxiway the full, will enter where the fixed base operator is now, and then back taxi 2,000 feet to the left end of the runway as you're entering from the thing, and then turn around and then depart the full 5,000 feet off to the north. While he is back taxiing, he is preventing another aircraft from landing. So if he were on a separate parallel taxiway, the runway could be the runway itself could be used for takeoffs and landing by another plane while he's doing his taxiing and then running up his engine and checking on it. It also is a very slight safety risk that someone would misunderstand that he's on that runway back taxiing, which should be made clear in a radio transmission. But as Sandy says, it never was any problem at Bar Harbor. And he mentioned, by the way, that you couldn't see from one end of the runway to the other because at Bar Harbor there's a hump in the center. So one plane at one end cannot see the other, and it's 5,000 feet, I believe. So it's a bit longer. It's a more difficult, not such a cozy, clearly visible setup as we have at Belfast. So maybe I should defer completely to the FAA. I'm just giving my opinion, and we're all giving our opinion on how money can best be spent.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
that.
perspective.
Mike?
We haven't heard from one more person.
More guy.
Oh, okay. Handouts. Thank you. My name is Dave Aldrich. I'm also on the airport committee and resident of Belfast. I sat down today with an aeronautical chart of the state of Maine and looked at all the airports that have the ability to operate 24 hours. That was my sort criteria. There are 32 airports in the state of Maine that can operate at night. There's lots more that can operate day only, but I just left them out just to keep things simple. 19 of them do not have a parallel taxiway. Of the 13 that do, you can see the asterisk ones have commercial passenger service in, and 2 more are ex-military. That leaves 5 airports in the state of Maine with parallel taxiways without commercial service. I use this, it's approximately 4-to-1 ratio of airports that have a taxiway or no taxiway versus a taxiway. The airports you can see here that do not have parallel taxiways generally are about the same size and configuration as Belfast. Pittsfield is just north of here. They have a 4,000-foot runway just like we do here. And the rest of them, I've been to a number of them, and I guess you guys have been to most of them. And they're all operating without a parallel taxiway. From a personal point of view, I have been flying airplanes since the Johnson administration and have 14,000 more or less flight hours in all kinds of different airplanes. I'm currently flying for an air ambulance service out of Florida part-time in the wintertime. And I have been to a lot of different airports with lots of different configurations. From my point of view, this is just a personal point of view, a parallel taxiway is a very slight improvement in safety for operations for airports of the Belfast size. For larger airports, Augusta or Bar Harbor, it becomes far more necessary for just traffic flow, ease of traffic flow, safety of traffic flow. For the Belfast traffic, the only time it is a real conflict is when somebody is back taxiing to one end of the runway or the other. The other point is that the parallel taxiway only currently goes half the length of the runway. So it's a 50% it's a 50% taxiway. It does not go off to the south. So it's a glass half full in terms of that. So I leave you with this list. You can study at your leisure.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, our goal tonight was to have a conversation and understand what's driving their thinking, and I think I feel like we've heard you. I hope you feel like we've heard you. And if you have any other thoughts, send them along. I mean, at some point in time, we're going to be working on the airport master plan, the next master plan. We're turning the corner into 2017 when the FAA is expecting us to be looking for this money for the parallel taxiway. So we're going to have to wrestle with this issue really in the next couple of months pretty easily. So we all wanted to just get a face-to-face conversation. I really appreciate you coming in and filling us in. And if you have any other thoughts, by all means, mail them in and we'll make sure everybody gets them.
John?
Thank you. I know that you have said that you can't mind read the FAA, but based on what we have put in our long-range plans in the past, do you think that there's any chance that the FAA would not provide support for another project until we did do a parallel taxiway?
We may have to ask that question informally, just to see what people think. We have a consultant, ASG and Thomas, and we could call them and just say that there's some concerns here about the cost and how do we think, if we didn't go this way, how it might reflect upon us in the future with other FAA requests for funding.
I mean, I think that's the card that we're trying to play here is the cost.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a nice to have item, a parallel taxiway, and I think that's how it started. And then the cost just got way out of hand.
Yeah.
You know.
Please understand that I'm not trying to spend money that we don't have by
Absolutely.
any means, and
Neither are we.
I like the idea of being able to take something off the list. Yet, I'm always worried about taking something off the list if someone thoughtful or some group in this committee and so on felt strongly enough at one point in time to put it on the list. I'm just trying to work through that
Right.
line of thinking,
And
and
I-
I haven't quite gotten there,
Yeah,
other
and I
than
think what
the
it
wish
was,
list.
the cost was not that, astronomical in the beginning. If it was a $1 million or a $2 million taxiway, even at $3 million, we had some doubts. But when it jumped to $6 million, it's just a cost benefit thing now. And yeah, the train is kind of leaving the station on this project because we've already done some stuff. We're doing the land swap with the National Guard. That won't go away, and that's still a good thing to do, and that will serve us for the future anyway.
Right.
And there's some environmental stuff that's permitting that's gone in. That might go away. But even some of the engineering work can be used later. I'll give you an analogy of this. If you're going to go buy a boat, it's a $100,000 boat, and you really want to buy this boat, you hire a surveyor, and you maybe pay him $1,000, and he tells you the boat is garbage. Well, he just saved you $99,000. You had to pay him $1,000 to do that. And that's kind of what we're doing here. We've just decided $6 million for this is just way out of line, for the benefit we're going to get out of it. And I don't know the answer to the FAA, but Joe's right. You're going to have to talk.
We're going to have to sound it out. And we'll let you know how that all goes.
Because we don't want to see the city shoot themselves in the foot over this, and be denied something in the future. I don't personally think that would be the case. And you're right, they like to hammer on safety. That's why we're cutting trees.
Yeah.
But I think this is a discretionary item that I think can come and go. That's my feeling, but we'll have to talk to the FAA about
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
So, a couple of things. One is, I'd really like to see this list with who has fuel just on it, because to me, I almost view the airport as this thing, I get it. It's completely off my radar. I'm not a pilot. My brother's a pilot or was a pilot, but you have very specific needs, and I'm supportive of them. but I was completely baffled by we're not going to have fuel. So that was number one. Over many years, what I've seen is, and I think, Duke, you just mentioned it, we've got to plow, it's $600,000. You got to put up 5%. Okay, we got to plow for 5% of $600,000. Same thing on this project. You got to put up 5%. It's not a big deal when it's $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $6 million. All of a sudden, it's a big deal. And, to me, 5% at $2 million doesn't make me think about where that 300,000, where that 100 or 100,000 could go. But as it starts getting to 200 and 300,000, I start thinking, why don't we have fuel instead of something maybe this committee doesn't even recommend? So, so timeline-wise, we don't have to make this decision. We're not making a decision here.
No.
And when is the final, when do we really need to?
Mike, what was the rest of your question?
Yeah, what's our timeline on this?
We need to move efficiently, but not in a panic. If we want to make our 2017 window to the project, ideally we want to be going out to bid in the spring of 2017 to get prices and get everything wrapped up to go to the FAA in early May.
Okay.
So don't need a decision tonight, but
Just
need to move
to
forward.
clarify that, we get to apply once a year in early May for this funding. We've been in the hopper for a number of years for this funding, and the FAA's been giving us signals for some time that 2017 is likely to be our year
Yes.
for this discretionary
I have
funding.
that confirmed as of 2 days ago when I was in Augusta for the CIP meeting with FAA and Maine DOT.
And when you apply for it, you have to be ready to go. You've got to have your design, you've got to have your environmental permits, you've got to have your costs nailed down, you've been out to bid already. It's like getting ready for the dance, but you don't buy the dress or the suit until they give you the grant.
Sure, yeah, sorry, I'm trying to follow that.
No, but we have, what you're saying is all that preliminary work has to be done before May
Yes.
1 of June 2017.
And that's what we had done with the preliminary design and environmental assessment project that is wrapping up as we speak, and also it's tied in with the land swap that we're consummating with the National Guard as we speak as well.
Sure, we'll talk about this again on the 23rd when we go through the current.
If I could just add, in regards to the airport master plan update, Mary's on that project advisory committee, Joe is on that committee, I'm on that committee, and I believe, if I'm correct, that committee has recommended unanimously and reaffirmed their vote that they do support to extend the taxiway, and that it has existed in our 1999 plan and our 2008 airport layout plan update. So it's been around, it's been on our plans for a long time.
All right.
To answer your question, Mike, real quick, Machias does not have fuel. I don't know about Newton, Caribou,
Could you just get us like a,
and Islesboro. That's it. Everybody else has fuel in this list.
oh,
I think there's
that'd
There's
be great.
4 that don't have fuel,
And fuel is 100,000 or roughly
under.
under 100,000, okay.
All right.
All right, thank you. I don't have
Thank
any
you very
more
much,
questions.
guys.